If you're like me, you've probably failed. A lot. It's just a fact of life. We as humans constantly fail, and it's something you just can't avoid. Failure is our inability to achieve a goal, a setback that causes us to fall short of an expectation. In the world of video games, it's a common occurrence just like night and day, or a Smash Bros player being a convicted pedophile. Video game studios have become masters at exploiting our faults, and no one does it better than FromSoftware. FromSoftware has made a living off failure, creating the most notoriously hard video games in history: Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, and most importantly, Dark Souls. The Dark Souls series is incredibly hard. So hard in fact it spawned its own subgenre called the Souls-like. The Souls franchise is so successful that it sold over 27 million copies across its lifetime, in no small part to the elite world building, engaging exploration, and beautiful atmosphere and tone. But who am I kidding? Everyone's there for the challenge. Long before the events of Dark Souls 3, there was no light. Fog covered the lands and the ancient dragons watched over all. Life and death wasn't even a concept, as nothingness was everything. Then one day, by some miracle, the first flame was sparked. The flame brought light and gave birth to life and death. 3 creatures entered the flame: Gravelord Nito, the Witch of Izalith, and Gwyn, each claiming a lord's soul and sending them to living gods. However, there was one more: the furtive pygmy. The pygmy found the dark soul and split it apart to create humanity. Eventually, humanity, along with the 3 lords, defeated the dragons and would take the surface for themselves, entering the Age of Fire. The Age of Fire changed everything, with great kingdoms being built by the lords and life prospering until the fire began to fade. If the fire went out, the Age of Fire would end and things would go back to the way they were before. Terrified of this, the lords attempted to prevent the flame from going out. The Witch of Izalith attempted to recreate the flame and turned into this. With no other options left, Lord Gwyn used himself as kindling, reigniting the flame. But this was only a temporary solution, as it only delayed the Age of Dark that would continually creep closer and closer with time. This is where the first game takes place. At the end of the second cycle, you're chosen to reignite the flame. Eventually, after making the journey, you use your body as kindling and start the Age of Fire's third cycle. Thousands of years later, after the cycle had restarted hundreds of times by the people selected to be kindling, all attempts to restart the current cycle had failed. The lord that was chosen to rekindle the flame, the young Lord Lothric, refused to do so. So in a fit of desperation, previous Lords of Cinder that were successful in rekindling the flame were resurrected in hopes that they would relink the flame once again, but they refused to do so too. So with no other options left, the ones that failed to link the flame were reawoken, the Enkindled. The ones that are too weak to originally do so, a long shot, a Hail Mary to keep the world going, the Ashen One, a role you'll have to fill. Awakening from your slumber, you're surrounded by the graves of the Unkindled that previously failed to relink the flame. Thrown into this world you're somehow supposed to conquer and save. The Cemetery of Ash is really deceiving. It looks like your basic tutorial area, learn how to hit things, block attacks, and just get to know the world a bit. But once you reach this knight with a sword plunged deep into its body, it comes alive, revealing Udic Skundr to be the first boss of the game. And if you've never played a Souls game before, you'll get your ass kicked over and over and over again. Even though it's really infuriating, it's perfect, acting as a test to see whether you're worthy of continuing on to your destiny, or if you must go back into the coffin you just crawled out of. It's a trial by fire and it burns hot. There's no secret item to obliterate the boss, there's no way to level up your character. The thing that must grow stronger is you. And once you finally strike down your foe, that rush of serotonin flows through your veins and it feels so good. The game didn't hold your hand to victory, you hopped a hurdle based on your own sheer will, and now you felt the struggles of things to come, and it will mold you into the warrior you need to be. Now, this is where the game truly begins. You're sent deeper into the ruins of Lothric, witnessing the hordes of Sixers fans that inhabit the kingdom. The ruins of a once great civilization on the brink of collapse, falling apart at the seams, only being held together by the few that remain sane. The constant cycles of the Age of Fire has bred demons and monsters into existence, and the ones that are living through it continue to suffer. Maybe linking the flame isn't that good of an idea. But enough of that, let me tell you a personal story. Of the 4 Lords of Cinder you find in the game, my favorite are the Abyss Watchers. The Abyss Watchers beat my ass in my first playthrough, to such a degree that I actually gave up on the game. I uninstalled it and moved on with my life, but eventually I was drawn back. I restarted the game from the beginning, and I was determined to actually take time to learn from my previous failings, and I did. I learned that souls are replenishable and that composure is key. Things that may seem really obvious out loud, but in game, those things will often disappear in the name of self-preservation. Souls are the be-all and end-all of Dark Souls, needing them to pretty much do everything in the game. Dying causes you to lose them all, and that caused me to play it safe. Once I realized that I could just find more, I learned to jump to danger and embrace the chaos that the game presented, allowing me to learn to keep a cool head and time my dodges and attacks, leading to me actually getting to the Abyss Watchers and beating them first try. I was absolutely shocked when this happened, believing I was going to be there all day, but I wasn't. I was around the same level I was when I originally fought them, so the only thing that changed was me. This turned on a light bulb in my head, and I realized that every fight was like this, working out how to pick apart a boss through trial and error, or the improvement of your own skills. Even though Dark Souls' combat is front and center, the game's use of failure goes even deeper to the narrative level. This entire game is about the failings of the past, present, and future. The Age of Fire has long run past its original expiration date, and everyone is paying for it. The kingdom of Lothric, once known for its domination of dragons, was ruled by Osiris. Determined to produce a child that could link the first flame, he performed a heinous act, cursing the child. However, the young lord came out frail and weak, unable to have the strength to become a Lord of Cinder. To fix this, his older brother Lorien binded his soul to his younger brother, leaving him crippled in the process. Because of their situation being because of the first flame, and the kingdom crumbling around them despite the continuation of it, they were turned off by the idea of linking it, leaving the flame to dwindle and snuff out. Their father Osiris, in an attempt to gain power, was driven insane and turned to this thing. Osiris failed as a ruler and a father. Lorien and Lothric failed to do their duty, and the resurrected Lords of Cinder failed as well. The Abyss Watchers were corrupted by the Abyss which they were supposed to destroy. Aldrich is the failure of a person, becoming a glutton of humanity, and turning into this thing. Why does this always happen? Oh yeah, that's not Aldrich. That is. Finally, Yorm the Giant failed to protect his people. Building the profane capital, he fought and defended his people, eventually volunteering to link the flame, only for it to go wrong and burn down his entire kingdom, leaving it scorched and destroyed. Then comes you. Your journey only begins because of the failures of the ones that came before. The Ashen One had already failed way before you even booted up the game, coming back to the light because all options were already used. Even though you had all the odds stacked against you, you kept pushing through the pain, the struggle, and the grind until you reached the kiln of the first flame. I can't even begin to describe what this is. Just like the cemetery of ash piling the corpses of the unkindled on top of each other, the kiln of the first flame is an amalgamation of the ruins of the previous kingdoms long gone. Whether the kiln is actually a physical place is up for debate. For me, I interpret it as the flame barely holding the world together, smashing reality and time into each other in a desperate attempt to create some semblance of reality due to the weakening state of the flame. This can partly be seen by the Soul of Cinder, an amalgamation of all the previous Lords of Cinder that sacrificed themselves to the flame. Once you overcome that final hurdle, you can either continue the cycle or end it. If you ultimately decide to continue the cycle, it's really disappointing. Like sacrificing yourself barely does anything at all. However, if you decide to end the cycle, you send the world into the Age of Dark. Even though you failed to link the flame, it doesn't necessarily mean the ending is bad. You let nature take its course. You end the unnatural extension of the Age of Fire. Just like how you grow from the failures in your journey, you prevent the world from stagnating and cause a much needed change. By failing to link the flame, you progress the world forward. And besides, this doesn't necessarily mean the end. The Fire Keeper assures you, the flame will dance again like it did before. This isn't the end of the story. It's just another chapter in the long tale of this world.